Today I want to talk about something that we all do that is similar to cows, moose, and giraffes. We all ruminate. The word ruminant comes from the Latin word ruminare, which means to chew over again. Cows, moose, and giraffes are all ruminants, meaning they have stomachs that have a fermentation process which they burp up and re-chew their partially digested food, which is known as cud. For a cow, this process takes about 8 hours. For myself, I can ruminate for hours, days, or years on the same reoccurring theme. The Oxford Dictionary has 2 definitions for rumination. The first one is an even-toed hooved mammal that chews the cud regurgitated from its stomach. The second is a contemplative person, a person given to meditation. This second definition was really surprising to read, since the term rumination is usually used to describe the continuously reoccurring, repeating, circling, dwelling, usually unproductive and negative thoughts that go on and waste a lot of time and energy. For me, the most common theme that I ruminate on and focus on is about me. And the old game of trying to prove or disprove my self-worth, taking any situation or interaction and examining it and twisting it around to looking at some sort of unrealistic, high expectation rating scale, trying to evaluate my self-worth. Constantly looking at different angles to validate belief that I'm not good enough. I can spend all sorts of ways trying to look at the story and find ways to validate that story. Even if I know it's not true, I'm still looking for things to prove that it is true. I often don't recognize I'm ruminating until I emotionally burp or fart, which is most commonly expressed as crying or being withdrawn. So instead of ruminating, I'm working on trying to actually stop and tease apart the situation and looking at it from different angles, using new information rather than the same old fermented information. What I find is that I'm often grumbling or jealous about someone. I've found 3 different patterns. One is that there's a quality about the other person that I don't like, but I also don't like about myself. They have the same quality. If I'm judging them for being insincere, stressed, scattered, indecisive, lazy, I also have that quality in myself. Another pattern is that if there's a quality about the person that I like, I also have that quality, but I'm just not recognizing it in myself. I'm discounting myself. I am kind, thoughtful, and hardworking. And another pattern is if the person has a quality that I like and admire that I don't quite see in myself, it's something that I can just simply aspire to wanting to develop. Self-confidence, wisdom, and public speaking. By identifying these 3 patterns, it opens up the space to have more compassion and understanding towards myself and to the other person, which then leads to a greater sense of connection and a feeling of growth and moving forward, rather than just staying in a circle of funk, of flatulence. Another solution to this ruminating mind is actually applying the antidotes, seeing things from an opposite view, which is much better than just currently staying stuck in the misery that I know that I can inflict on myself. It takes effort, but if I actually take my jealousy and rejoice in the other person, take the arrogance, flip it into humility, or any other form of my self-centered thinking, and actually shift it to thinking about others, and thinking about what their situation is like and the kindness of the other person, it actually feels a lot better. My mind is really resistant to it at first, but it is that whole act of fake it till you make it, and it actually does work. And it's a lot better than just staying stuck in the old patterns. Another fun way of trying to break out of the misery of these reoccurring negative thought patterns is to simply identify them as karmic fart bubbles and joyfully pop them to release the energy and stop the habit. They're constantly coming up, and it's really nice just to identify them and say, okay, karmic fart bubble, go away, pop. This is a good way of just laughing at myself rather than taking myself way too seriously. So a different form of misery that I commonly do to myself is similar to what rabbits do. Rabbits eat their own poo as a part of natural part of their digestion process to get more nutrients. I create suffering on top of suffering in many different forms, and none of it brings any kind of nourishment or benefit. Such as worrying about my parents during COVID. They're now vaccinated and totally fine. I beat myself up for tiny, pointless little things. I judge myself for judging myself. And so many endless other forms of adding suffering to what's already a difficult, challenging life. Again, the solution is compassion and acceptance, not dwelling and feeding the suffering. So the second definition of rumination, a contemplative person, a person given to meditation and thinking deeply about something, is a much more enjoyable way of living. There's so many inspiring things to think about with the Dharma. The kindness of others, this incredible situation that I find myself in, the absolutely infinite dependent causes and conditions that bring about this situation, and the idea of being constantly surrounded by Buddha's love and complete understanding. These are other ways that I can spend my mind thinking about in a much more enjoyable and beneficial way. And it brightens my mind and keeps me connected to what's really going on in the moment. If I can actually just pause and see where I'm at and appreciate things for what they are, it makes much more greater connection and joy. So the next time you catch yourself chewing your cud and creating a lot of tension, bloating, and gas, I recommend that you shift your mind back to the Dharma, to pausing and appreciating the moment, and to thinking about helping and understanding others. This will bring yourself and others much more relief, nourishment, and joy. Happy digesting.